Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. They laughed at the Black Mason, until he kicked the CEO out in the middle of the meeting room. Marcus Johnson arrived at the construction site well before dawn, while the city of Chicago still slept under a light veil of mist. The fresh morning air lightly pricked his skin, tanned by years of outdoor work. The prestige of the place commanded respect, a glass and steel building with silver highlights, standing proudly in the heart of downtown, a symbol of economic power and success. He set down his backpack near the entrance to the construction site and adjusted his old, thick canvas overalls, which still bore the marks of the many construction sites he had visited. His knees were worn, almost transparent in places, silent testaments to the hours spent on his knees laying bricks or repairing foundations. His toolbox, made of metal rusted by time, hung from his belt, moving gently with each of his steps. He knew their weight and contents like the back of his hand: hammer, trowel, level, adjustable wrench. Each of these tools was an extension of himself. His face was marked by the years, deep wrinkles around his eyes, a tan complexion from the summer sun and hard work, and a slightly graying beard that gave Marcus a look both strong and humble. His eyes, however, shone with a quiet determination, the fruit of years of personal and professional struggles. As he walked toward the construction site office, he immediately felt the weight of stares. A few suited executives were already there, talking in low voices, looking slightly condescending. They stopped talking almost instantly to stare at him, exchanging glances heavy with innuendo. "Hey, here's the guy who's going to teach us how to do our jobs," said Ethan Reynolds, the project manager, a white man in his 30s with a smirk that belied neither his arrogance nor his contempt. He emphasized his words with a casual gesture, as if to indicate that Marcus was just another ordinary mason. Beside him, Susan Blake, the CFO, a cold and calculating woman, barely looked away from her smartphone to give Marcus a disdainful look. "You bet he won't be able to keep up," she whispered to Ethan, a cruel smile on her lips, almost amused by what she assumed was a simple waste of time. Despite these barbs, Marcus showed no sign of irritation or anger. He had learned, sometimes the hard way, to ignore these superficial judgments, these hidden prejudices that had followed him all his life. He knew that responding would only fuel their arrogance. So he remained calm, his step steady, his head held high, filled with a quiet confidence built on decades of hard work and often overlooked excellence. What no one on the construction site knew, neither the arrogant managers nor the indifferent workers, was that Marcus Johnson was no ordinary mason. Behind his unassuming exterior and worn overalls lay an exceptional career, marked by excellence, but also by injustice. Marcus graduated cum laude with a degree in civil engineering from the University of Illinois, one of the nation's top engineering schools. He began his career with enthusiasm, hired by several large, renowned construction firms in Chicago. His technical skills were impeccable, and his attention to detail was renowned. But despite his talent, Marcus had encountered an invisible wall: systemic racism and social barriers. At every stage, he had suffered silent humiliations. Projects he had worked hard on had been taken away at the last minute, under the pretext of restructuring. His ideas were ignored in meetings, his proposals dismissed without consideration. Worse still, certain colleagues, jealous or influenced by prejudice, had deliberately sabotaged his work. The cumulative pressure, the doubtful looks, the comments behind his back had finally forced him to resign. Rather than let this experience break him, Marcus had transformed this pain into strength. He knew that society had its forgotten people, its left-behinds, those that big business didn't want to see or hear. He had decided to change the rules of the game. With a handful of like-minded friends and former colleagues, he founded a skilled workers' cooperative, a veritable community of workers, mostly from often marginalized minorities. Together, they purchased dilapidated or abandoned buildings, often ignored by developers, and renovated them from top to bottom. But this cooperative wasn't just a business, it was a life project. A place where everyone's dignity was respected, where talents were recognized, and where the next generation of artisans and technicians was trained. Marcus wanted to offer those who hadn't had the same opportunities as him a real chance to rise up and live with dignity. The cooperative thrived, but quietly, away from the spotlight and glitzy boardrooms. Marcus knew what he had built was solid, but to change attitudes and structures, he needed a stronger act, a dramatic move that would shake up the system from within. He dreamed of lasting, large-scale change, a real shift where skills, diversity, and social justice would finally take their rightful place in the construction world and beyond. For several weeks, Marcus worked tirelessly on the construction site, despite the heavy and hostile atmosphere that weighed on him. Every morning, he arrived before everyone else, put on his worn gloves, and threw himself into his work with exemplary rigor, knowing that his worth was not measured by the judgments of others, but by the quality of what he accomplished. However, it was difficult to ignore the contemptuous stares and barely veiled comments from the white executives who circulated around the site. These suited men and women, with their airs of superiority and state-of-the-art smartphones, seemed incapable of seeing Marcus as anything other than an ordinary mason, a mere operative who had come from nowhere. At every site meeting, Marcus was present, but almost always silenced. When he proposed technical solutions or adjustments that could have improved the quality and safety of the work, his suggestions were dismissed with a wave of the hand or met with discreet sniggers. His white colleagues allowed themselves to chuckle at his advice, calling it naive or outdated. The mockery sometimes extended to more acerbic remarks, spoken in low voices, but audible enough to sow doubt among some less experienced workers. "What does he know about managing a site like this?" one manager would ask, smiling sarcastically. "He'd better take care of his bricks." But Marcus, far from being intimidated, took mental notes. Every word, every attitude, every decision made behind his back was recorded with the precision of an investigator. He knew that behind this facade of contempt, there were often hidden flaws and tensions that only he could exploit. As the days went by, he managed to discreetly get closer to some of the workers who were more inclined to listen, creating a network of informants who provided him with valuable details on the internal dynamics of the company that owned the building, the multinational Carson Corp. Marcus then discovered that this company, led by an arrogant and out-of-touch CEO named Michael Anderson, was far from as solid as it claimed. Financial reports, sometimes hidden, revealed growing difficulties, accumulating debt, and haphazard asset management. The executives, obsessed with short-term profit and maintaining their social status, made risky decisions, while ignoring the warnings of certain shareholders and experts. This was a veritable goldmine of information for Marcus. He understood that behind the building's gleaming walls a chess game was being played, to which he, until then a simple mason, held the keys. He only had to wait for the right moment to act, convinced that his time would soon come. It was a bright Thursday morning, but in the large meeting room of the prestigious building, the atmosphere was heavy, charged with tension and anticipation. An important strategic meeting was taking place, bringing together the top executives of Carson Corp., as well as several senior managers from the headquarters offices. Faces were closed, some exchanging worried glances while others feigned confidence. Suddenly, the door opened, and the receptionist announced in a polite but firm voice, "Mr. Marcus Johnson is here to see you." A murmur rippled through the room, followed by surprised exchanges. All eyes turned toward the entrance, where Marcus appeared. He entered calmly, without hesitation, wearing his slightly dusty work jacket, his simple but clean shirt underneath. In his right arm, he held a thick folder, its pages neatly stapled, which seemed to contain the full weight of his efforts and determination. Michael Anderson, CEO of Carson Corp., stood up abruptly, his face contorted with disdain. "Sir, this is not the place for a worker. The meeting is private. I would ask you to please leave." Marcus slowly placed the file on the large, varnished wooden table in the center of the room. An almost religious silence fell as all eyes focused on him. His voice, calm but imbued with firm authority, echoed through the room. "Mr. Anderson, this file proves that the cooperative I manage legally acquired 60% of the shares of Carson Corp., including ownership of this building." The eyes of all the executives widened, some stood up, trying to discreetly check the documents, while others exchanged incredulous glances, unsure whether this scene was a joke or reality. Marcus continued, unperturbed, his gaze sweeping the room. "As of today, the leadership of this company is changing. And you, Mr. Anderson, are requested to submit your resignation immediately. Michael Anderson, visibly destabilized, tried to speak again, to protest, to turn the situation to his advantage. You don't understand the implications. This company represents millions of dollars, jobs, families. It's not as simple as handing you a piece of paper and saying, "I'll take control." But Marcus didn't look away. His determination, the quiet strength he'd forged over the years, was palpable, almost intimidating. The silence in the room was heavy, oppressive, and the conviction in Marcus's eyes stopped any attempt at resistance. In the days that followed, as Michael Anderson stepped down for good, Marcus took the reins of Carson Corp with a clear and ambitious vision. He announced a new strategy, radically different from that of his predecessors, to transform this multinational into a true incubator for innovative businesses, led by minorities and talents long neglected by the system. Under his leadership, Carson Corp became a committed player, with initiatives that went far beyond mere financial gain. Marcus established several mentoring programs designed to support young engineers from disadvantaged neighborhoods, offering them not only scholarships, but also personalized support, practical internships, and guaranteed job opportunities. He spearheaded a comprehensive infrastructure reinvestment plan, ensuring that each renovated building was not only modern but also environmentally friendly, incorporating sustainable technologies and eco-friendly materials. Sustainable development became a priority, a central pillar of the company's new policy. This radical change was not without resistance. Former executives, some of whom had openly mocked Marcus and his past as a simple mason, were forced to recognize his value. Many chose to leave, unable or unwilling to adapt to this new vision. Others, more pragmatic, agreed to follow the new direction, realizing that the world had changed, that diversity and inclusion were now essential forces for success. But Marcus, true to himself, never let himself be intoxicated by power. He quickly returned to the construction sites where it all began, donning his worn gloves and rediscovering the dust and noise of manual labor. For him, every brick laid was a victory, every wall rebuilt a step toward a more just society. In this return to the essential, Marcus found his greatest satisfaction, that of having not only changed his own destiny, but above all of having opened the way to an entire community, giving hundreds of people a real chance to exist, to learn, and to build a better future.